Hey there, viewers, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to take a look at a water pump diagnostic and replacement on this '02 Chevrolet Suburban. Let's see what happens. So I'm not going to lie here, folks. I've already looked at this actually in the customer's driveway yesterday, but it is hot because they literally just drove it here. So I'm going to work on taking some of this plastic trim stuff off because it's just whizzing a puddle of coolant. I mean, literally, we're getting quite the buildup on the floor here. So you'll be able to see it a little bit better when that time comes, and hopefully the motor won't be quite so hot. So we're taking this airbox assembly out. So this little clamp here, you just slide a screwdriver up in that little window there and wiggle it out, or you can squeeze it in the back. It's your choice. So next up, we're going to take this fan shroud loose, a bunch of 10 mil fasteners, and some push pins, it looks like, on this style. Try doing this on one of them Chevy vans. You don't have that kind of room. Kind of tough to get a camera nestled down in here, but what you're looking at here is the front of the water pump, and you can quite clearly, as it focuses on the belt, you can see literally where the coolant is draining off, and then it's ending up over here on this side, kind of over by the water neck, which is dry. And it's dripping off this kind of center area, you know, with those 3 bolts in it. So this isn't something that looks like it's leaking from the seals. It's definitely leaking from the gaskets, which is another super common failure on these motors, is the gaskets. This one actually looks like the pump. So the good news is we put gaskets in it and a pump here at the same time. So what we're going to do, you are going to need some special tools here. This is a fan clutch tool set. It comes with these big Mondo babies, and it comes with this guy. And what makes it special is it's got these little tabs that screw in to the end here, and there are 4 little holes in the water pump pulley, which immobilizes, you know, the pump from turning and those types of things, so that you don't have to fight this and you can unscrew the fan. There we go. So you can kind of see how we can rotate this guy to where we need it to be. We'll caution you, plastic blades, very sharp. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna get this little guy onto the face of the pump. We're gonna get this little guy onto the fan, and a great big old gnarly ratchet. And then we're just going to squeeze. And they're usually not wrenched on super stupid tight. Then these clutches do go bad too. A symptom of that, obviously, she'll run a little bit hot, and the fan will typically roar when it's cold only, but when it warms up, it basically just freewheels. So she has a mechanic that can change that for her. So she's kind of stuck here. So we're just going to put a coolant pump on it, get her back on the road, and then if they need a fan clutch later, they will take care of that at their own house. So don't chew up your radiator or anything by dropping your cooling fan. If you're wondering how to change that, the fan is bolted to the clutch with simply those 4 bolts. Fan comes off. Keep your fan, change the clutch. Next up, we're going to go ahead and pull the drive belt. So I'm just going to go ahead and put a tape tab facing the front of the vehicle. I suppose you could use a marker or paint pen. I seem to have misplaced that. And that way the belt runs the same way that it always has been trained. It's just kind of my thing that I do. Next up, we'll lose the drive belt. So just push down on the tensioner and slip it off this idler here if you want. We're probably gonna just leave the AC belt on. There's really no reason to mess with it at this time. So next we're gonna just squeeze the hose. Obviously there's no pressure in it. We're gonna go ahead and depressurize this cooling system. If that hose had pressure in it, probably best to take a water hose or something, spray the radiator down. That usually alleviates it. And this is bone dry, empty. So I think what I'm gonna do is just put a tray underneath this thing. I'm not gonna try to drain the coolant because I don't really think there's a whole lot of coolant left in it. I'm just gonna go ahead and slide these hose clamps back. Hopefully you can kind of see what's going on here. That little trick where we wiggle them saves you a lot of stress trying to get these things broke loose. So much coolant's in this thing. Ooh, just a little bit. Here's where we go get a bucket. Anyway, try to aim for the container. So now those two hoses are off, we're gonna go ahead and drop the upper radiator hose. Cool thing about them, they lock. You can see how that stays in the locked position. That's kind of nice. Might have to go get a big old pair of channies. Give this guy a twist. Oh, no, there he goes. So we've got like 6 bolts. At this point, we'll take this bottom hose loose as well. And then once that's out, out comes the pump, clean the face of the motor, and swap the parts. All right, folks, time to drop the pump. Sorry for the camera being out of focus. Sometimes it kind of literally has a mind of its own. So we got 3 bolts on each side. They're 10 mil. In case I edited that part out, we dropped the upper radiator hose, the bottom radiator hose, and then the 2 heater cores are obviously different sizes, so literally impossible to confuse those. You do kind of have a hidden bolt up here on the top. Rest assured, there are 3 on each side as far as what you need to loosen up. It's got kind of a nice ding to it. Dinner time. So I loosen these top 2 bolts up about that much. You can see that one. Shh. And then we get behind it with our prying device. And usually we can pop that pump loose, about like that. Let it finish whizzing, and off it goes. There, easy, is our pump. So right here you can see the weep hole on the water pump where it's been leaking. Actually, it looks like it's been leaking for a little bit. It runs down that, casting seam and then was dripping like right there, slash right there in the middle. So we're gonna need to transfer the thermostat, hopefully the water neck, rather the whole water neck. Hopefully that fits. Some of these pumps, like I said earlier, take a different style. And then we'll also need to transfer this belt tensioner. Pretty simple with the 3 bolts, but I'm gonna do the water neck first, just in case you run into problems. Here's a look at the front of the motor. We're gonna go ahead and scrape those orange gaskets off, get everything cleaned up super nice, like clean enough so you can eat off of it. And we'll clean the bolts, chuck those into the sandblaster and things like that. Okay, so here's your thermostat. It's very self-explanatory actually how you would remove that if you want, but some of these are built into the water neck. You just buy the entire water neck assembly. I'm not going to try to take this out because I don't have the rubber gasket, but you can see how it's held in by those 2 little tab guys sitting there. So there is this one looks like it's oh no, I was going to say this one's been gooped up with RTV, but don't forget the O-ring that goes in place of this. So I'm going to clean this up with a Scotch-Brite and the bench grinder because we got some corrosion going on here. But first I want to test fit it in the new pump. All else fails, measure, folks. If you can. So what are we at? 1.685. Ooh, 1.673. So that is a little tiny bit deeper. Probably will be okay considering the bottom of that is, you know, spring loaded. But this one you can feel a little bit of spring action. This one, not really. So probably just see how it goes. All right, so we got this all cleaned up. We're just gonna put a little bit of old coolant on that, slipping everything up good. Hopefully it stays in. It does not. Here comes the Vaseline. So what we're gonna do, we're just gonna little wad, get it in the crack so it fills it up, because that'll stick the gasket down in there for us. Then we'll just take the gasket, smash it into the Vaseline. Not a sponsor of the show. And now you can see that stays just exactly where you would expect it. So we're gonna take some blue Loctite, drop that on these bolts. Whoa, or like 5 gallons of it, or whatever. And we'll snug those down. I think these back two are the same length, pretty sure. And they are. So this will go there. Everything fits good. Give her the old LT action, because we can. Come on, baby. The wheels on the bus, the wheels on the wheels on the bus go round and round, round and round, round it and round. Just kind of want you all to get a feel for this bearing here. Aha, so here we go. Buried deep in the box. This is kind of what I was talking about. So we have the one-piece thermostat, kind of what I was alluding to earlier. Use the O-ring. If you have the 04 and later, which was the last version of this that I did, you use the supplied gasket that goes with it. So these two necks are different. Looks like this pump can interchange, and then it has a little bit of a blurb about the original. I've replaced a lot of those because they separate and do weird things. Fiber one is the replacement for that. So what we're gonna do, just to glue the gaskets down, I'm gonna put a little of this, thought I had some Permatex high-tack stuff somewhere. I apparently don't. But nonetheless, this stuff's gonna be sticky and it will hold our gaskets in place, all of that other good stuff. Cleaning the block off, you know, razor blade, Scotch-Brite, whatever your weapon of choice is, just get it pretty clean. I'm gonna let that dry for a bit. I'm gonna do that a couple of times just to get some buildup so they stick to that pump good. So I've just put 2 bolts, one into each side, and that kind of keeps the gasket from wandering around into places it be not wandering. Kind of helps everything cinch up correctly to the front of the motor, keeps the gasket from falling out, things like that. So first bolt can be a little bit of a pill, but if you can get 1 or 2 of them to thread in without too much things moving around, the rest of them get a lot easier to move. Get those hoses out of the way. That bottom one, if they all thread in, then you know your gasket isn't fell out or has not fallen out here, out of the way. Wow, if I could talk. Just want to get these ran up before that Permatex gets not sticky. I did clean all the surfaces with brake clean. I'm sure you could probably imagine how that looks. You know, like you saw it. And then just me, I'm gonna put a little bit of Loctite on each of these bolts. They are blind holes. They don't go into the coolant jacket. I did check that with compressed air. I would put thread sealant on them, but well, I cannot find my little tube of Permatex. So kind of a common theme here, unfortunately, in the summer. So the reason I put all these guys in is that, you know, make sure that the gasket can be slightly mobile when you're getting everything adjusted before that Permatex sets up and things like that. So the gasket shouldn't move now when we take each bolt out one at a time. Down. I'm just gonna put some tight on these. Kind of a 3-step process. Oh, I was gonna say, where's the other bolt? Factory spec, I believe, is about 22 foot-pounds, which feels pretty dang right for these type of bolts. I'm gonna go 20. Dinner bell's ringing, folks, with the Loctite on them. So kind of like I said, a 3-step process for making that happen. There we are. Don't break them off, folks. So I always put the hose clamp back in exactly the same spot. I don't know, it's just like my thing. There it is. There. And now for our drive belt. It's just easier to put it on at this time. I realize if you're kind of paying attention to how we're doing this, we are slightly out of sequence. We do have a belt routing diagram. So we're gonna come up and over the water pump, make sure we're in good. But why not take advantage of all this luxurious room that we happen to have right now? So over a coolant pump, down around town on the power steering pump. Oh, we slipped off. Easy, easy there, big fella. Okay, idler action, and then I'm actually gonna leave idler action for now, and then we'll go with other idler action. I might want to slide that belt so I can pull my tape off, if that's good. Get rid of the old tuck and stretch. There we go. Very nice. Next up's Mr. Cooling Fan. It is a normal thread. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, in case you were wondering. Figure out which way the ratchet goes here, folks. Don't have to go hog wild with it, just maybe a little squeeze. It does generally self-tighten as you're driving. Next up, obviously, is the fin shroud. I am going to fill it through the upper radiator hose. It's kind of a unique feature, if you will, of this motor. I believe it's due to the reverse flow of the cooling system. So we're going to dump 100% straight antifreeze into this because I'll bet there's at least a gallon of water in the bottom of this block. So we're just going to keep doing this. By the way, this is 50-50 supplied by the customer. We will check the final mix and see where everything ends up. But anyway, long story short, we're going to fill this till it either comes out the filler neck of the water pump or some other orifice such that we know, you know, everything is full. So I realize it might be a little bit tough to see, but we filled it until coolant started coming out the water neck on the on the pump. All our hoses are hooked up. Obviously, we did this in a different order than I'm explaining it. All our routing is good. Our hose clamps are good. We got one tie wrap over there. We are full to the full cold. We're going to give this a little bit of a rinse off just so it doesn't smell like a candy factory. And then we're going to start the engine. We're going to run the heater for a minute and let the coolant circulate. Then we're going to check the concentration of the coolant to make sure this block doesn't freeze in the middle of winter. Dun, dun, dun. There's that guy. So hose clamps are always a little bit of a turd. Okay, he's in, he's in, he's in. Here's a tip that Mima taught me, a little silicone spray. And just take that, give it a little spritz. Okay, a little wipey. Do the exact same thing on the other end, and these suckers will glide on effortlessly. 75% of the time, every time. So I'm gonna go ahead, airbox, boom, throttle body, boom. Got one hose clamp that's just kind of hiding down here. Don't forget him. This is apparently collapsed. I don't really quite know why. Oh, it's kind of permanently like that. Okay. Well, we didn't do it, so we have officially uncollapsed it. There we go. So we'll turn the heat up to maximum hot, like such. Fire this guy up. Let the smoke show get over with. It should. That alternator does not sound healthy. I spun it earlier, it was making some noise. Just make sure this guy stays good and topped up. It will purge through this hose here. It's always got a hot water bypass constantly flowing. And our heater core is already starting to warm up a little bit, which means we got good circulation. Coolant level currently dropping as the air burps out, I would expect. And this changes the coolant level when I squeeze on it, so obviously the air is burped out of that. We'll let this run for a couple minutes, and then we'll get a test of the coolant concentration. Well, there you got it, folks. I kind of forget where we are in the grand video scheme of things, but here's the summary. This thing has had the Astro pressure tester on it for about an hour-ish, because I had to go to the dental appointment. Kind of, sort of almost forgot about that. So I left this, everything's good. We had to iron out a little bit of drama with the coolant, being that it was like 25 below zero. It's like 52 degrees below zero now. So that was basically sucking this reservoir out and then filling it with straight concentrate again. We are topped up, you know, beyond the full cold, because this engine isn't exactly cold. Double checked everything, no leaks at the bottom of the water pump, no leaks at the two gaskets, no leaks at the filler neck, hoses, thermostat, anything like that. So this thing is all finished up. I'm gonna lose the pressure tester, put the cap back on it, and ship it. So with that being said, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, things to add, anything like that, that is what that comment box is for. Give us a thumbs up if you liked what we did here. If you want to subscribe to the channel, it's always appreciated if that's your cup of tea. As always, thanks for watching, folks. We'll see you later.